In this video, we'll look at linear functions. Now, a linear function is a function whose graph lies on a line in the coordinate plane. And that key characteristic to creating the line is that the ratio in the change in the outputs to the change in the inputs is always the same. So if we look at the line y equals 2/3 x plus 1, here's the line's graph. Now, if I go between any 2 points, the change in the outputs to the change in the inputs will always be the same. In this case, here I've chosen multiple points to look at, and it's always a rise of 2 to a run of 3, or 2/3. Now, say I choose 2 points that are further apart. Here, in this case, that's a rise of 4 to a run of 6. But if I simplify 4, 6, that is still 2/3. It's still that same rate of change. Or say I choose 2 other points. This is a rise of 6 to a run of 9. But again, 6/9 simplifies to 2/3, therefore still having the same ratio. Now, when we look at the equation of the line, we're often going to be dealing with it in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. In this form, m represents the slope of the line, which is that ratio of the change in the output to the change in the input. And we can write that as a ratio or as a fraction. M equals the change in the y's to the change in the x's. B will represent the y-intercept of the line. That's where it crosses the y-axis. So when I want to look and find these parts, say I have that same graph, I would first say, where am I crossing the y-axis? Right there at 0, 1. That means the y-intercept is 0, 1. And that's where it comes from in my equation. Then I want to say, well, what's my slope? If I go from that point, I rise 2 and run 3, my slope is 2/3. So I'm trying to get to another integer to make it easy to create that slope if I have the graph. Now, say you need to create the equation of the line from 2 points that are given to you. First, we need to determine the slope between the 2 points. We need to use that slope in one of the points to determine the y-intercept, and then we're going to take those 2 pieces of information and plug it into the slope-intercept form. So let's say we had these 2 points, -2, 3, and 2, 1. We want to start with the slope, and remember, it's the change in the y's over the change in the x's. So the change in the y's from 1 minus 3, that's my change, over 2 minus -2, gives me -2 over 4. So that slope is -2/4. And that can simplify to -1/2. Now I'm going to use that slope, -1/2, and I can use either pair. Doesn't matter which ordered pair. I'm going to substitute it into my equation of a line. So this is my y value. This is my x value. So y equals mx plus b. I'm going to simplify, and then I'm going to add 1 to both sides to find that my y-intercept is 2. So I have my y-intercept and my slope, which means that the equation of the line is y equals -1/2 x plus 2. So for any x value I put in, this will help me create its corresponding y value. Now, if I want to graph that line, I start with my y-intercept at 0, b, and then I'm going to use my slope to construct a second point, and because it's linear, I can draw a line through those 2 points to show all the solutions that create this line. So if we go back to our equation we just had, y equals -1/2 x plus 2. If I start with that ordered pair 0, 2 for my y-intercept, I put it on my line. I now want to use the slope of -1/2 to create the second point. So I'll go down 1 to the right 2. The negative tells me to go down. I plot that point, so that's at 2, 1. Now I can draw my line through that, and I have the graph for the line y equals -1/2 x plus 2.